Did Canelo just duck Jermall Charlo? We answer that next. Please like and subscribe. Share us on all forms of social media. Please help us hit 10,000 subscribers. Leave us a comment. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to another episode of The Hot Stove. We were going to do a completely different show. We were going to do a show on the news that broke that, well, the rumored news that Canelo was not going to fight Triple G for a third time. That rather he was going to put that off till next year, next May, and he was going to fight this September on Mexican Independence Day against either Callum Smith at 168 or Sergey Kovalev at light heavyweight. But now, and we were also going to, on that show, we were going to add in how Jermall Charlo was getting screwed out of all this because he's already been the mandatory for going on 2 years. Going back to last September when he beat the one-legged Argentinian Sebastian Highland, that was the eliminator to make him the mandatory. He won that fight. And in the 2 years since, he hasn't gotten the title shot, and they're not interested in in fighting Charlo. You know, they said, Canelo's camp said that they were going to fight, Kovalev or Callum Smith in September, and then in May they were going to fight Triple G for the third time. Well, where does Charlo fit in? He's already been mandatory for going on 2 years now. You know, he's got considerable beef here, and that fight is over a year out now. You know, at least another year. Well, it's already waited 2 years. So Charlo was getting screwed, and the news just got worse for him, which is what today's show is about. As soon as we had wrapped up the other show, we got a press release from the WBC saying one of the dumbest things we've ever heard. Canelo was named the WBC franchise champ. That's right, the franchise champ. Okay, here's what that entails as per the World Boxing Council. The franchise champ designation is exclusive appointment by the WBC Board of Governors by a majority vote of the board. 2. The designation is not transferable and is exclusively to the fighter who receives such designation. 3. The franchise champion will be designated as WBC Emeritus champ once he retires from boxing. 4. The franchise champion will proudly represent the WBC in every single fight as a reigning WBC champion, regardless of any specific conditions or titles being associated with all future fights. WBC rules and regulations will govern under the traditional conditions of boxing in the franchise championship fights. WBC will approve through the franchise champion promoter every opponent scheduled to fight. 5. Franchise champion agrees to participate in a minimum of 2 social responsibility events every year, organized and in conjunction with the WBC. 6. The WBC may recognize a WBC champion in the division or divisions where the franchise champion currently competes. They're recognizing Jermall Charlo. The WBC may award a Diamond Championship belt in those fights in which the franchise champion engages. If the franchise champion loses, the winner will receive the Diamond belt and may be considered as mandatory contender of the division. Maybe, which doesn't mean that he is. So if Canelo lost to whoever at 160, then that guy could be considered, but he may also not be. So that actually says nothing. If you thought that was one of the dumbest things you've ever heard, then we agree. So how exactly does this mean Canelo ducked Charlo? Well, there's the obvious. Charlo was promoted from interim to world champ. So the WBC world champ at 160 pounds right now is Jermall Charlo. And then Canelo's got this other franchise champion, which he's the only one. There's only one franchise champion, and it's Canelo. So no more mandatory. Charlo's not the mandatory. No more purse bids. No more mega fight with Canelo. That's all off the table. So there's obviously that. Okay. Canelo has had Charlo as his mandatory since the day he became WBC champion. And Triple G had him as mandatory before that. Canelo knew he had to fight him and opted for a unification with Jacobs, and now is going to look to opt instead to move up and fight Kovalev and or Caleb Smith. And then he wanted a trilogy match with Triple G. Well, the WBC mandated Charlo for the title shot, and then said we'll make Triple G fight him. And then the winner of Triple G and Charlo will get Canelo. Triple G ducked that fight. Then they would say, okay, well, we'll just let Triple G fight him. Well, then how does that make him a mandatory? You know what I'm saying? How does that make Jermall Charlo mandatory if you're going to let him fight everybody else? And I understand unifications take precedence, so I didn't complain when he fought Jacobs. And if he wanted to fight Andrade, then the WBC would probably say, okay. And then Charlo will fight the winner. But he's not fighting mandatory. Now he's moving up in weight classes and taking, and fighting Triple G for no reason. For a third time. What we've learned now was Canelo never had any interest in fighting Charlo. That fight was never going to happen, right? And this is according to Golden Boy. Canelo was negotiating with Triple G, Errol Spence, Sergey Kovalev, and Caleb Smith. But not his mandatory Jermall Charlo. So where's the WBC in this? Right? He never had any intention of fighting his mandatory. The fact that he has gotten this long without having his number called, Jermall Charlo, to fight Canelo is absolutely ridiculous. And the WBC was going to let Canelo do whatever he wanted. And what does Canelo want? That's having no part of Jermall Charlo. Canelo is the biggest name in the sport. He's the biggest earner in the sport. His $35 million a fight, that contract was on the $365 million contract, he makes almost $35 million a fight. What does that mean to the WBC? About $1 million a fight. For each fight they sanction at a 3% fee, which is typically what they charge, at 3%, they're making $1 million every time Canelo fights. $1 million. That is an unbelievable fee at 3%. It's $1,050,000 to be on a $35 million payday. Times that by 11. Well, 10 more fights or 9 more fights or whatever he has left on the contract. They're going to let $9 million. Do you see why they didn't want to let him go? Do you see why they were going to play ball with Canelo? Canelo says, I have no interest in fighting Charlo. And the WBC said, okay, we'll figure out a way for you not to have to fight Charlo and still keep you a champion. This is what they did. Oh, the WBC is in the Canelo business. And business is good. Canelo's a star. Love him, hate him, think he's underrated, overrated, think he's the best fighter in the world, don't think he's in the top 25. Whatever you think of Canelo, Canelo's a star. His pay-per-view star is proven. Well, not pay-per-view anymore. The ability to sell with Canelo is proven. Canelo had a split with the WBC about 2 years ago and vacated their belt. They weren't about to have another problem. No, sir. They were not going to have another spat with Canelo Alvarez. Not the golden goose with the golden eggs. They were going to play ball with Canelo. Whatever Canelo wanted, they were going to do. Canelo is obviously a Mexican fighter, and the WBC is obviously based in Mexico. They have to have... It doesn't matter for Canelo. But the WBC has to have a good relationship with Canelo, meaning they have to give him whatever he wants. And again, he wants not to fight Jermall Charlo. If you think I'm wrong, then lay that out for me. Look, Canelo is a fighting champion. He fights good fighters for whatever reason. And most people would pick him to beat Charlo. He wants nothing to do with Charlo. You can't say it's not a draw. That is a huge draw. It's bigger than Jacobs. It's bigger than Kovalev. It's bigger than Caleb Smith. It's bigger than any of those fights. It's bigger than Rocky Fielding. You can't say he doesn't want to fight Charlo because it's not a big draw when he fights Rocky Fielding. And again, I'm not knocking Canelo. Canelo's a fighting champion. But for whatever reason, he wants no part of Charlo. And he's ducking Charlo. Look, a Canelo-Charlo fight would be in Charlo's home city of Houston. In either Minute Maid Park or Energy Stadium. Would be a massive draw. You're talking possibly 50,000 fans. It's Charlo's hometown. He reps Houston hard, right? He's always repping for Clutch City. Canelo sells out all over Texas. Look, Canelo did 30,000 when he fought James Kirkland in Houston. Kirkland's not from Houston. He's from Austin. That's 3 or 4 hours away. And Kirkland has a much, much, much smaller fan base than Jermall Charlo. So with out-of-town fighter that lives 3-4 hours away and a much smaller fan base. Canelo did 30,000. So what could he do with Jermall Charlo in Houston? And Canelo's a much bigger star now than he was then. He could do 50,000 tickets sold easily. Right? It could sell out. I mean, it depends on how many, they would set Minute Maid Park up to. It's a baseball stadium, holds about 35 to 40,000, but for boxing could hold probably 50. Energy Arena could hold more. They could sell 50,000 easy for this fight in Houston. So it's not you can't say that it's not a draw. It's a huge draw. It's bigger than Jacobs. It's bigger than Kovalev or Caleb Smith. It's the biggest fight that's available to him in the United States. It is. So, from a ticket sales standpoint, it's the biggest. He ain't gonna sell 50,000 with Triple G in Vegas, but they could do it here. They could do it in Houston. He's already sold 50,000 in Dallas, 30,000 in Houston, 30,000 in San Antonio. He can do it, and Charlo can do it too. Charlo fights this week in Houston. You're going to see the attendance numbers. They're going to be big. So you put the two together, you get a big fight. So you can't say that Canelo's not fighting Charlo because it's not a draw. He's not fighting Charlo because he doesn't want to fight Charlo. And don't give me the PBC thing, right? Charlo's agreed to everything. Charlo said, I'll go to Mexico and fight him, right? So don't give me that. He's the mandatory. If the WBC mandates it, it's a go. And Charlo wants the fight. So what's holding up the fight? It's Canelo. And again, Canelo's a fighting champion. He doesn't want that smoke with Jermall Charlo, which would be a huge fight in Houston, in a city that he's already sold out in. Canelo wants to go up and wait and capture other straps, all the while not having to fight his mandatory and keep his belt. He needed the WBC to play along. And they did just that. They gave him this ridiculous franchise champ tag where he will pay their fees and keep a title of theirs and not have to defend his title. It's silly and ridiculous. It's a silly and ridiculous way to avoid Jermall Charlo. Either admit you're scared of him and you don't want to fight him, or fight him. Either say, I don't want to fight him, I'm going to vacate my title. Sucks for boxing fans, hey, but at least we know that you don't want that smoke. Or fight him. But this is, what the WBC did was just completely play ball with Canelo because he makes some money. Which I understand, but let's call it what it is. Canelo said, I don't want to fight Charlo. How do I keep my belts? How do I remain a champion and not fight Charlo? Right? And the WBC says, well, we don't want to lose Canelo. We don't want to strip his belt from him. So how do we keep him as a WBC champ? You know what I'm saying? And not having him fight Charlo. Because it's already gone on for 2 years. People start looking at us like we're weird. Well, we'll do this. Right? This we'll still get sanctioning fees from Canelo, who's our top earner. And he doesn't have to fight Charlo. And Charlo will be happy because he's now the world champion, correct? Charlo should be happy about this. No. Okay? Let's get into that. Because this is not good for Charlo. If you think this is good for Charlo, you are dead wrong. Dead wrong. Look, he's the champ. So what? No one is going to look at him like that. He didn't beat anyone to win that title. He literally beat no one. He got promoted to that title. Triple G and Canelo both ducked him. And now really aren't going to fight him. Now they really, really aren't going to fight him, right? It's not like they had to fight him because he was the mandatory or they wanted to fight Triple G's case. He wanted to fight Canelo, would have to go through. They ain't going to fight him now. Look, Jermall Charlo earned a shot to fight Canelo. The biggest star in the sport. He earned the payday. He gave up his title at 154 to bet on himself to move up. And he can fight Canelo and beat him. Okay? If he won, he'd be the biggest star in American boxing. If Jermall Charlo beat Canelo Alvarez, he'd be the biggest star in boxing. Now he's not going to get that shot, right? If he won, he'd probably make $10 million at least for the Canelo fight. He'd probably make $20 for a rematch if he beat him, and then he'd be a $20 million plus per fighter. Because he'd be the biggest star in American boxing in a talent-loaded division. And he could call the shots. That's what he earned that shot to get there. Now, if he wins, it's a different story. Now what does he get? Now he gets the title, and he has to fight Brendan Adams. And then after that, no one's still going to fight him. They're still going to say he's ducking everyone because Canelo and Triple G ducked him. Right? Canelo and Triple G both ducked him. So where are his options now? He's on the wrong side of the street, right? And he had gotten himself in position to get the Canelo fight, and now he doesn't get it. And he doesn't get it, but he gets a belt that he didn't earn, and he gets none of the glitz and glamour that goes along with it, and still no one's going to fight him. So if his problem was I couldn't get a fight then, he still can't get a fight now, and now he's out of position to get the mega fight at all because he's not the mandatory anymore. This is no way, shape, or form works out for Jermall Charlo. The opportunity to be the biggest star in American boxing, to dethrone Canelo, to beat Canelo, was what was stripped from him. He's not going to get that shot now. In what would have been the biggest fight in American boxing. Please like and subscribe. It would have been the biggest fight. Canelo didn't want it. And the WBC obeyed. That's what it comes down to. Canelo said, I don't want to fight Charlo. Figure out a way for me to keep my straps. The WBC obeyed, took that orders, and figured this ridiculous nonsense with franchise champ out. Please like and subscribe. Help us hit 10,000 subscribers. Share on all forms of social media. For another special edition of The Hot Stove, from Texas to the world, this is 3D Boxing, saying thank you and God bless.
Enjoy 3D Boxing vlog videos? Show us some love by clicking the like button. Don't miss a tweet, post, story, or video. 3dboxingvlog.com is also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hit the subscribe button now to stay inside the ring.